So it is 1 past, and it seems we have people here already. So if you're fine with it, we can start just right away.
Yes.
Okay, let me check my picture is all right so that everybody can see me. Hi everyone, I welcome you all to another sitting in the series of Bilgimusic seminars. For those who have been following these seminars, it should be evident that this is the third and the last sitting in a string of lectures by 3 clarinetists who are artistic collaborators and who have similar backgrounds. Fie Schouten is an accomplished concert player as well as an interpreter of experimental music. She will speak about her long experiences in collaborating with composers. And before I give the podium to Fie, I would like everyone who have the opportunity to open their cameras to show their faces and introduce themselves, because she plans to do this in a more interactive way, if you will.
Maybe we have to say names, because otherwise...
Okay, perhaps that will be the better way. Okay, Emre Akkaya. I will recite out names then.
Hi, my name is Emre Akkaya, and I'm a composition student in Yıldız Technical University, and I'm here because I'm interested in the learning clarinet, and I mean learning about the possibilities in modern music writing on clarinet.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Gülesin, Jonathan.
Hi. I'm working on jazz and its improvisations and jazz harmony.
Okay.
I'm at the Bilgimusic first year.
Okay. Thank you.
Koray Hocam, sizi de tanıtmak ister misiniz kendinizi?
Şu anda sesim geliyor mu?
Evet, duyuyoruz sizi.
Tamam. My name is Koray Sazli. I am working at Yıldız Technical University in Istanbul, and I am trying to be a composer. I am teaching composition and composition-related courses at my university. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Zeynep Ayşe Hatipoğlu.
Your microphone.
Miss, you're still muted. Let me have
Yeah. Oh,
yes.
Sorry. Can you hear me right now?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, great. I'm Ayşe. I'm a cellist, composer, and improviser. I'm a research assistant at İTÜ Turkish Music Conservatory, and a doctoral student also at MİAM in Istanbul.
Okay, nice.
Thank you.
And Davut Özdemir is the one person who haven't introduced himself yet.
Merhaba. Ya benim İngilizce pek yok. Biri yardım edebilirse çok sevinirim.
Sadece ismini de söyleyebilirsin ya da
Tamam.
ben çevirebilirim istersen.
Tamam. Yıldız Teknik Üniversitesi'nde kompozisyon öğrencisiyim. Koray Hoca'nın öğrencisiyim. 2 yıldır burada okuyorum. Böyle.
Okay. He says he's a composition student as well at Yıldız Teknik University and a student of Koray Sazlı.
Okay.
Okay, I don't think I have to introduce the department, as I guess you know many of them, but
yeah.
Somebody just joined, I guess. or not? Ah, okay, we didn't see you before. That's why I thought you were.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Please go on, Fie.
Okay. So yeah, I'm a performer, and I started as a classical player, and I'm actually always curious to things I don't know. So yeah, playing music from a composer who is not alive anymore. You cannot telephone, you cannot ask. You just have to kind of copy what other players did before. So this is a really different approach than when you have a new composition, and you can just have contact with the composer and say, like, is this the idea? Is this what you mean? What you want to say? And then the interesting thing is, of course, that if there's a composer and he wrote a piece, it depends of the composer, but the outcome can be very different when there's this performer and player playing the piece or another performer. But also that depends of the composition, because some composers, they're super specific on how you should play their pieces, and some composers give more freedom to the performer. So that's also different. And that's also something that you only can know by asking the composer. So therefore, yeah, I really enjoy this working together. And oh, 1 minute. Can you still hear me?
Yes, perfectly.
Okay. So today I wanted to speak about a few experiences that I have. And one is my experience working with Helmut Lagerman. Of course, he is very famous older composer. And the interesting thing that his music is still quite kind of modern, although it's older. So his trio Allegro Sostenuto that I performed and worked with him, it's quite kind of modern, but it's from the 50s. And how did I get in touch with Helmut Lagerman? Well, I performed with Ensemble Muziekfabriek from Cologne. And one of the projects what they asked me for was to play his piece Zwei Gefühle. And it's a piece for ensemble and a speaker. And the speaker was, that part did Helmut Lagerman himself. So after performing, I just went to him and I said, oh, I want to play your trio. And then he was like, oh, that's fantastic. You must come to my working place in Italy. So yeah, then you cannot say no. So I called my colleagues and I said, okay, guys, girls, we have to go to Italy because, so we did. And of course, his music is super precise, written down, everything, and maybe in a sense quite kind of intellectual. But then when we got there, and he's actually a quite funny person, and also super like human. You know, he also he cooked pasta for us, and yeah, he enjoys life. This is fantastic, and he's like a curious mind, always curious. So this gives me a lot of information about how to approach actually his music. And another thing was that the trio is for clarinet, cello, and piano. That he basically can, well, not on the clarinet, but on the cello and the piano, he can do it himself. So when on the cello it was not the exact sound that he wanted to have. He said to Eva, to my colleague, he said, "Give me your cello," and then he did it for her. And or he said to Keiko, my piano colleague, he said, "Why do you do it like this? You should do it like, I don't know." And this was such a pleasure to find out how to make the sounds. And yeah, then I understood much better how the piece worked. I want to show you a little video of him. There's a really nice new film. It's called My Way. It was for a while on German TV online, but it's not online anymore. It's a new film, so probably one day or later it will be online. I'm just going to, so it's, yeah, I can, I said to Dilara that I can send you afterwards, you know, information where I talked about, and then, so don't stress that you forget how the film was called. Now I'm going to show you a little bit of a talk with Helmut Lachemann and Catherine Milliken. And Catherine Milliken, she's an oboe player, and she was very long time in Ensemble Modern Frankfurt Ensemble, and she interviews him. I want to show you. Can you hear and see?
No, we can only see now. We can't hear the video.
You can only see?
That's right.
Okay, I do it again, because then I share screen and share sound. Once more.
Helmut, for such a long time.
Now it's good.
Okay.
So everybody, welcome to the Digital Concert Hall and welcome to an interview with Helmut Lachemann. Thank you very much for being here with us, Helmut. Helmut, for such a long time, you've been a researcher of sound. You called yourself once someone who works in a laboratory, and yet on the other hand, you talk about sound as having a story, as having an aura, a magic. Why have you gone into this sound world, and can you tell us exactly a little bit more about how you've gone into the sound world?
Well, all the sounds we are living with of our incredible great tradition, I love them, and they are totally full with expression, which is there before I write something. A guitar or a trombone sound is expressive before I write the note. So for me was the question, is all our traditional repertoire of sounds just a sort of wonderful supermarket, and I go along and take the things I like most also, or if I understand tradition as an example of of innovation, always going on, find not only new sounds but find new context. So sometimes I mention this, that there is this wonderful title from Morton Feldman, The Viola in My Life. And I could say, when I write a piece for cello solo, the cello in my life, or a string quartet in my life. That means I had to find for all those wonderful sounds which already are expressive before I use it, a new context. But this means, a new context means to bring it really together with elements which were not foreseen before. And in the 1968, 69, I had to make myself free of where I'm coming from. Luigi Nono was my teacher. And I was totally enthusiastic about his way to write, but I say, if I would try to do the same, I would be an epigone or satellite from that. And on the other hand, I wanted to make a music totally clear. It means not a music totally familiar, but clear. And so I told myself, in our everyday life, when I let fall a glass on the floor, or a floor of stone, I hear a noise, I hear a rhythm, but I don't say, this was C sharp, or this was, but I say, what happened? At this moment, what happened? That means I hear how it came, the reason why the sound. I even hear a rhythm when it falls on. I hear several impulses. It was a nice rhythm. Stupid. In this moment, by this reason, I try to develop another repertoire of sounds in which the familiar sounds are not out, but now a sound for a cello played is for me a string with a friction of a bow, and not necessarily a consonant C in C major or a dissonant C flat, or C sharp also in C major.
Okay, this now maybe you feel you're a little, I don't know if you understood everything super clear, because his speaking in English is also not that articulated. But his way of being is kind of philosophical. So he says every sound is already there, and it's expressive itself. Just he is organizing it in a way, and then you get his music. And another thing that he also says, his music, he doesn't want to fulfill expectations, or that refers to other music, but he wants to wake up actually people with his art. So he doesn't want to please, but he wants to, yeah, when you're like, then he's happy, because then something happens. I want to show you now a little bit of my playing allegro sostenuto, and I also have a bit of score. So I'm going to try to show that simultaneously. So the sound and the viewing. Yes. So this piece is what I performed, Allegro sostenuto, and his title is actually Allegro, is of course fast, and then sostenuto, it's sustained. So it's really going. It's about sustained sounds, and the sounds also go from piano to clarinet to cello. So there I made also lines that we have really to line up, and there's a lot of I don't know if it says you something, but a third pedal on the piano, which means you push the third pedal and it's not damped. So then when I or the cellist, when we play, it will ring those keys, those strings, which gives a sustained sound. And I will play. So now you can see the score and hear something?
Yes, it's perfect.
Okay, this was just a little bit, and the whole piece is half an hour. Thank you. Yeah, so like you can see, there's so much information in the score. Incredible. And when you work as a player, when you work long on it, and yeah, it's like a whole route that you walk together, and you pass all these super interesting sounds, and it's super detailed. And then in a way, the large form is also fantastic. It's the first 15 minutes. It's I play the clarinet, And then in the second half, then I take the bass clarinet, and it has really this feeling of like that you were grounded, you can feel on the floor like, then suddenly it has this different character. It's so interesting. And then there is kind of a bit of cello solo, and with all super difficult techniques, and then Lagerman, he was laughing and saying like, yeah, it's like in the pigs, you know, where the pigs are in the farm, like everybody's like, you know, and that gives such a different energy when you know that when a composer tells you like this, then you play it with different energy, and you want to make it happen, all those sounds. And then in the end there is like a hymn, and it's like a slow wave, and then the piece like kind of flows away, and it's really, yeah. So therefore he is really a master in the details and in the big form. Yeah, and then the question is, how do you learn this? And he in the film, and also to us, he told us, he said, yes, yeah, when I was small, I didn't have the chance to see all those contemporary, or he didn't know contemporary scores. But I had access to Beethoven sonatas and symphonies, and he just copied them with, you know, he copied the whole score. So this is how he learned, tried to learn composition. And then of course he was studying with Luigi Nono, and like he said in the talk with Catherine Millikan, he loved what Nono was doing, but he didn't want to do the same, because then he would be Nono B, but he wants to be Helmut, you know. And with composing, when composers ask me about special techniques for clarinet or bass clarinet, I always think like, try to stay as close to your idea, and then I can help you as a performer how to notate it and what is possible. And of course, yeah, composers like Lagerman, they are so far with knowing what is possible on all the instruments that they do it already correct. But they also have friends who play the instruments, and they ask, like, how do you, can you play this? And what I learned from Harry Sparnay, my former teacher, where also August and Tobias studied, he said, okay, write it down, I will give it a try. So this is also my thing. Usually when I see something which is maybe not possible, I first say, okay, leave it there, I'll practice, and when it's really not possible, I'll come back to it. And sometimes the idea is so strong that I say, leave it, and I'll make my kind of interpretation or kind of improvisation on the piece. And in that context, I would like to show a piece for bass clarinet solo, which was written for me by Rosalie Heers. Let's see, it's here. Rosalie, she is a composer and a poet, and she studied also mathematics. and she is very much into like not the serial, the like overtone. Help me.
Spectral.
Yes, spectral music. So in this piece, she has a soundtrack with sinus tones, which make waves, therefore also the parts called wave. And the bass clarinet plays with the wave, and therefore there are so many microtones. And like you see, every bar there's trills. Yeah, and on the bass clarinet, not every trill is possible, or yeah, I can't do every trill as fast as the other. So I made my own interpretation, and then I asked her, do you like it? And then she said, yes, I like it. So then I said, okay, then I keep it like this. And then she asked me, shall I change what I wrote? But then I said, no, because maybe another player, makes another interpretation. And it's better for me to try always to get as close as possible to what's written down than that you change your writing. So this is the beginning. I will also put sound on. For instance, later on, this is all quite possible. But then there comes a bit like here. Yeah, this is really not possible. And why? Because on the bass clarinet, you really have keys. So on the clarinet, you have fingering holes where you can maybe half open holes, but bass clarinet is you close the key or you open it. So like this half thing, that's not possible. And also, I mean, with the flutes, you can change, like go more inward or outward to make it high or low. But yeah, on the bass clarinet. So what I kind of did was respect the first note and make kind of flow towards the low note. So I kind of faked it a little bit, but I practice a lot with the soundtrack to take care that it really matches. So this was for me the main thing in the piece, that the bass clarinet should match with the soundtrack. And for instance, like this, I couldn't play, and then Rosalie asked me, okay, maybe I shall write down what is playable. But then I said, yeah, then I'm going to play, and now I play kind of, I kind of fake it, so it seems like it's kind of glissando, but it's not. And if it's playable, I would do it maybe more marcato. So it gives a different output, actually. I'll put on some sound. 1 moment. Do you hear? Okay, and that will continue 10 other minutes. So this is, yeah, if anybody has a question, so this is for me like a piece I really enjoy to perform because every time I do it a little bit different, but the major things are the same, of course. And it's for me a bit playing with the sound, and also it depends on what kind of room I am. And of course, the best is when you have a dry room, then the bass clarinet should be amplified, because otherwise it doesn't mix, and then it feels difficult to play. Yeah. I have one more example that I wanted to show you. It's like somebody who also composes precise, but he doesn't have a like a first page. It's like it's George Apergis. And I played a piece by him last year, and I recorded it also. It's called Façade Trio. It's for 2 bass clarinets and 1 percussion. And there's no recording of the piece, and there is also like no explanation page. But a lot of difficult things in the piece, techniques. So first of all, as a performer, you think like, okay, there's no recording of the piece, and nobody played it recently since 1998. So maybe he doesn't like it, the piece, you don't know. So Muziekfabriek played a piece by him, and I heard from them that he would come to Amsterdam. So then I said to my percussion colleague, okay, let's go to the concert, and then we go search for him and ask him. So then we went to the concert, and we said, hello, George Apergis, we want to play on Façade Trio. And he was immediately very enthusiastic. So we were like, oh, it's not a bad idea. But then, of course, came the question, like, I will show you the score. It's a bit vague, the scan, but I have to put it on my screen. So, yeah. Okay, so this is page number 1. Okay, clarinet bass 1, clarinet bass 2, and 6 objects, metal objects, plates, 2 gongs, 2 ground casas with pedal. And then that's it. So, and then you have this. And of course, for the bass clarinets, there is a transposed part. So we didn't have to transpose also this. That would be too difficult. But then, of course, here you have kind of double tone. And here's this, and you have the little figure. And further on, let's see. Yeah, also here with the little figure in white. Then we thought, like, what shall we do? And also the percussionist, she had a lot of questions. But then Apergis is actually, he says, yeah, yeah, it's clear. And we were like, it's not totally clear. So we tried then to ask him, like, okay, should it mix very much the bass clarinets with the metal? And then the percussionist was like, shall I sit? Do you think that this on the metal plates I should play like this? And he was, yeah. And in one of his interviews, he says, like, writing a piece is like writing a letter. So he writes a letter to musicians, and then the musicians, their answering letter is the performance. So he doesn't want to give too much like ingredients how you should answer. Actually, this is so that's also very beautiful. So then we did a CD recording of the piece, and then I sent him the CD, and I was like, oh, well, maybe he doesn't like it. But then I got an answer like, oh, beautiful, thank you, I enjoyed listening to you. So this was done. So we did fine, and then yeah. So that's a very different way of than Lagerman, who really says, oh yeah, you have to exactly this, and you have to, you know. It's a different way of approaching, and I love to work then with such different people, because somebody functions like this and somebody functions like this, and that was of course in the past also the same. Just we cannot talk anymore to those people, so then you don't know exactly. I will show you a little bit of our playing. This was the premiere of the piece, and we played it with conductor, because otherwise it was too difficult. Oh, that's another piece. Okay, so that was Arpeggios. We decided to play it with the conductor, and the conductor is the husband of the percussionist, and he was anyway helping her with taking all the percussion, and then we thought, oh, okay, if you're there anyway, and we have some money in the project, can you also, you know, do the 5/4 bars during the piece? Because it's kind of all the effects are so difficult and delicate, and that you cannot also, you know, organize that you're together, because that will understood if we don't play precise enough. Sometimes when you stop, there's like a sound cloud, and then it suddenly has to stop, and this has to be very super precise. So therefore it was good to have like somebody at the how do you say, in a traffic light, you know, kind of person. Yeah. It's already 10 to 3. Maybe, yeah, it would be nice if you have questions, that we take a little time for questions. So.
I'd like to ask a question, actually.
Mm-hmm.
It's about the Lahmann piece, Allegro sostenuto.
Yes, yeah.
I wanted to hear your impressions about how he approached the piece by the time you performed it. I mean, the way I mean is that, I mean, it wasn't a new piece at all. Also, it being quite a well-known piece, it was recorded and performed numerous times before you played it. So do you think his ideas about how the piece should be played was the same back when he wrote it 30 or some years ago, or was it like kind of evolving? And also, was it like was he like being provoked by how you interpreted the piece, or he had in his mind an abstract and perfect version of the piece and he wanted you to do that? If I'm clear enough.
Yes, I understand. No, I think he is also a super like curious person. So and like a combination of, he has an idea how his piece should sound, but he was also very interested in how we perform it, and how we function as a body of 3 people living his piece. Yeah. So I think, because otherwise he would have said like, okay, listen to the recording. No, but he wanted us to come and to work with him. So it's his piece, but it's then also gets really much our piece. So this is what I really enjoyed. Yeah. So for him, yeah, it's still very much alive. Yeah, his music. Yeah. Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah. Somebody else question?
I have one.
Yes.
I mean, in general, you also in the examples we have seen, you talk about this freedom of interpretation of any kind of piece. You speak very positively of it. But I wonder if you have anything on the other side of the spectrum, like, for example, do you have experiences where you actually really didn't like the freedom you had with any kind of composition, with any composer? Because I'm just thinking, I mean, maybe perhaps it is always possible that you may not, of course, but still, I'm wondering if you have any ideas about that part. It would be interesting, actually.
So you mean if there's freedom, but and then I don't like it?
Yeah, too much freedom.
Yeah.
That kind of thing, at least for you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's an interesting question. I don't like it. I think when it feels for me too easy, so then I say, okay, then it's co-composing, you know? It's, yeah. And in a way, of course, as an interpreter, I have a large voice in how the piece will sound. But if a composer sends me a piece with too many like vague spots and it's not clear why, I think then I don't like it. Yeah.
So as I understand, struggling through something more complex is always enjoyable in interpretation rather than having too less.
I have also a piece, for instance, it's written by 2 players actually. Then movement 1 is written out, movement 3 is also written out, and movement 2 is improvisation. So this I also like, because then it's like a challenge to make the connection from 1 to 3. You have to think out yourself, and it can be every time different. And I didn't do it now for a while, but when I had a trio in 2000 until 2007, we worked a lot with composers who are also improvisers, and I, on purpose, for me also to practice, I told them, like, leave an empty spot. And for me, it was a challenge to make something, to play something that makes sense. Yeah, but it's indeed it's like it's a difficult line, you know, when it's yes, when it's no. Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Anybody else? Question? Oh, yes.
I do actually.
Yes. Okay.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi. Have you played any new complex discourse, like Ferniho or Fantasy or I don't know?
I never played a piece by Ferniho. Too many notes for me.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to get, because in Lattenman, you said there's a lot of information, but there's a composition current where actually the excess of information is part of their aesthetic.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if you played, I was going to ask you, how did you deal with that kind of information? But the fact that you didn't play is actually also a choice.
It's a choice, yeah. I must say I enjoy listening to Ferniho, but if I see the score, I think like, oh my God. So there is something in it which makes me not wanting to practice. But it depends from player to player. Ernesto Molinari, for instance, so a Swiss clarinet player, large name, fantastic player. For him, there are many pieces written with many notes. Probably he does it very easy. He goes very easy. Very good reader, I guess. Yeah. So, but then I'm maybe more, for me, sound and rhythm. This is, and harmony. This is what I really like. So, Ferniho, yeah. And you said Fantasy?
And
yeah,
other from the same gang.
Yeah, well, Michael Fantasy, you might mean. Yeah. The funny thing, he is composing differently now.
Yeah, I know.
Yes.
Yeah.
He wrote a piece for me, actually, for a bass clarinet festival, for 2 bass clarinets, cello, and double bass. And the first bit is really tough, like choo, choo, took 10 minutes, and then it evolves in something. Two bass clarinets singing to each other. And the title is In Between Reason and Feeling. And his idea was, when you're fed up with kind of reason, then you go to feeling, and when you're fed up to feeling, you actually can go back to.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. All right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah. Anybody else? Questions, remarks?
I have one general question, if possible.
Yes.
Since some of the people are just students here, and they're studying composition, and of course they are maybe for a first time will experience writing something for clarinet. As a clarinet player, would you talk about or suggest something so that it will broaden their horizons for writing clarinet? What kind of things, including freedom subject, what kind of things do you think they should consider before writing or while they're writing for clarinet?
Yeah. That's a difficult question, because
of course, I wonder your personal ideas.
Yes. No, what I usually, what is a difficult answer? Maybe it's like, okay, it's your idea, so you know. What is maybe interesting? I could send you some scores, and like what Lagerman said, you have a supermarket of possibilities, and there you can pick something from. So in that sense, it's maybe interesting to see scores written for clarinet by other composers, and then use it as a kind of a supermarket that you like. Oh yeah, this is, and then your piece is your organization, how you organize the music. Because Lagerman says then, okay, like a trombone sound, or a cello sound, it did exist already. So I'm not inventing something new. I just organize it in a different way. If that's an answer. And for clarinet, yeah, what I like about the instrument is it's flexible, and you have the large range. So I would say you can go very high and very low, and soft and loud, and there are interesting multiphonics, of course. Yeah, so it's. I think it's. I could send you some scores, and then it's interesting to have a look at for students, for composition students. I think. Is that an answer?
I will appreciate that. Yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah.
And what if the question was asked the other way around? What sorts of things are like challenging in an uninteresting and unpleasant way, if you can generalize?
Yeah, sometimes I see scores with then I think like, oh yeah, people check the book, and then they use the techniques in a row. Yeah. For instance, I just saw some student compositions, and then there is this with key clicks, and then you have a whole, but it's not possible. So I think you can do a lot of effort on notating it, but it doesn't make sense, because yeah, it's a nice effect, but you cannot do taka taka taka taka and in between slap tongue, or I don't know, whatever. Or with multiphonics, that you also feel like, oh yeah, somebody took a book and then copied it, and but you then don't. that I know that the composer doesn't know how it sounds. Yeah, but it's also a learning process. It's okay. Yeah. I fear I have to stop. I will do real life teaching now.
Okay, so we thank you once again.
Yes.